People sometimes come to my office and they say, I need a lawyer because I need to be separated. And I'll say, okay, tell me about your situation. And they'll say, well, last week I sat down with my husband and told him that I don't love him anymore, I'm having an affair, and I want a divorce. And I'll say, guess what? And they'll say, what? I'll say, you're already separated. You know, the skies don't open and a lightning bolt doesn't come down with a nice flashing sign saying that you're separated the way it does when you get a divorce. You get a nice certificate from the court and it's stamped, you're divorced. It doesn't work like that. So most of the time, it's easy to tell what the date of separation is because there's this clear demarcation of, I am ending this. And sometimes it's accompanied by an email or a letter, and I guess in rare cases, court papers, but it doesn't happen often that way. Usually someone makes it clear to the other the marriage is over, and then the parties usually stay in the same residence for a period of time, and then someone leaves. A lot of people think, falsely, that the date of separation is the date they start living in separate residences. False. False. People often usually stay in the same residence for a period of time. Men are typically counseled, do not leave the house. If you want joint custody, if you want equal time, do not leave the house. Because if you do leave the house and you can't work out a schedule, you're going to be torching your case, your chances of equal time and joint custody. So men frequently will stay in the house well past the date of separation, sometimes even over a year. And the parties live separate and apart. Now, someone asked, what if you can't tell the date? What if there are two different dates? Well, for purposes of a divorce, it doesn't really matter. Whether you can marry on November 1st, 2012, or December 1st, 2012, most people don't care. But for purposes of property, it may matter, right? As we'll see when we come to the equalization or property section in a few minutes, depending on what your net worth was on the date of separation, you could wind up either paying or receiving a much different share for equalization for property. So sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes we get into scraps about the date of separation because the values are very different on the two different dates. And sometimes people are trying to engineer their case in order to convince the court that this is a particular date because they know that their financial situation will work out better for them. So what are the key criteria? How do you know that you're separated? Over the time, there have been some cases which have generally outlined the key factors for.
Like I said, a couple of options: refinancing to pay out one of the partners, and most often they want to stay there for the kids, and then to sell the matrimonial home into each purchase. Now, I have existing clients that are married, and I always lose a client because sometimes it's like, well, who gets to keep the mortgage broker? And I always call both clients and say, make sure if you need my help, just call. But for the most part, they feel like the only one should call. But that's okay. I'm also seeing, like I said, I don't see a lot of men calling to talk about this. And when I do, usually they call me and then I don't hear from them again for another 6 months or a year. They take much longer to kind of make that happen, whereas from my experience, women tend to move faster. I'm seeing a lot of same-sex marriages that are breaking down. So that's something that I think there was a lot of people that went out and got married because they could, and unfortunately, things are not working out. So I'm seeing quite a few of those as well. I'm just looking at my picture. I cut my hair really short 2 weeks ago.
It's really nice.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Irina saw me in the bathroom. She said, "Did you have long hair?" I said, "Yes, I did."